Hi there, this is a small demonstration of using ApprovalPlus and processing an invoice basically. So we're going to pop an invoice in as accounts payable, send it to someone to code and approve, and take you through the export process to send it to the finance system, just to give you an idea of that process. Okay, so over on the right hand side I'm clicking New Invoice, and then we're going to complete some information. So normally the first step is you've already scanned an invoice in or it's been emailed to you. If you're not using an OCR process, then you need to just attach that. Now I've just got some sample ones, so I'm just going to pop some in here. Okay, so you'd upload your image, that's storing it in the cloud for us, and then we're selecting who the supplier is. Okay, you should start typing, it'll give you your various suppliers. You'd normally pop in the valid invoice dates, things like that. Type in the invoice number and the total amount. Whoops, sorry, I didn't do that quite right. 141240887. Okay, the system will calculate GST for us, and it's based on the setup of your supplier. Okay, if there is a valid purchase order number being quoted on here that we're going to match to, you'd pop that in there, and you can put in a narration, and this might be something like one I've got there, finance stationery, for example. Okay, the last step really in some regards for the accounts payable person is to select who to send this invoice for coding and approval to. So I'm just going to look, we've got a list of users here, choosing my own one, and we're creating the invoice. ApprovalPlus will then do some extra things, so it's looking at who the supplier is and their relative currencies and payment terms and things, and defaulting those onto the document. You can override any of these things at this stage, or if you're ready, you send that to the approver. Okay, now, sorry, the preparer. The preparer is someone out in the business who is generally going to code the invoice and put some sort of description of what it is they've purchased and what it's for, and have a little bit more detail, if you like, than the accounts payable team can based on reading the document. So they would get email notifications that would go in their dashboard, and they would come in here and process it. So in our case, we're just going to go through the process and code it. So I've clicked on the pencil. We are now going to code this up. It's defaulted the company that I work for and where the invoice was processed against, and we get a list of valid business units or cost centers that we can apply this to, that I'm actually allowed access to. Okay, so I can pick the list if I know the thing I want to put it to. So for example, if it had the word office in it, I could start typing and it'll give that for us. Okay, so depending on the GL code combination that I've chosen, it will either default in some fields or require entry of some fields for us based on the rules from your finance system. In this case, we've got a rule saying that we must put a comment in here. Okay, it has defaulted in an extra additional code for us, and we just need to choose an approver. And this approver list will change based on where we've coded this to, who's attached to me, and how much this invoice is. So I'm going to choose myself in this case. So I'm saving my GL line. Okay, it'll recognise that we've finished coding this invoice, and the buttons will change, and we can now send this on to the approver. They would get an email, or it will be in a bundle of emails, or it would, in our case, stay here for us to do our task. Okay, so the next person in that process will be notified if required. The approver will look at the invoice image, they can see the total amount that's been spent, they can see what you've done with it, it's been coded to a particular area. If they're happy with that, they can hit the approve button. If they want to look at any more detail of the coding and the other fields that we've filled in there, they can drill in there and look at that as well. Okay, if they want to look at the history of the invoice and see who's touched it and what they've done to it, that's all available to them as well. Okay, really the approver hits the approve button, that invoice is now ready to go to the finance system. So it goes through the process of being entered, coded and approved reasonably easily. Now obviously you're not going to have everyone sending invoices to the finance system. It's normally a task for one of your finance team to do. So there's a batch export routine they'll have access to, and this can be automated, or they can manually create batches as they wish. So here's me doing some manual ones. And really all approved invoices will be sitting there waiting to go. There's some defaults created, such as the GL date they're going to apply to in the finance system. You could override that and push it back to the end of the previous month, for example. Or you might be filtering the list of approved invoices and only choosing to send certain things. Or you may even just want to say, I want to take certain invoices and export those. It'll create a batch at that stage with the information in it, including a link to the images of those invoices, and pass that to the finance system. There'll be an equivalent process in the finance system to store that and save it in the finance system as well. And that really is the main process of putting an invoice in, coding it, approving it, and exporting it to the finance system. Thanks for your time. Bye.